Hello, my name is Celisa Berg, and this is my vision statement for my future third grade classroom. Each of these slides will show you my vision of how I will be running my classroom this year. Let's get started. There are many different types of learners, and often a hidden curriculum laced with teaching. As a future educator, I will ensure that my classroom and learning environment will teach all students from all backgrounds and cultures. I will value their intelligence and experiences that they bring to the classroom. I will also give my students the basis of thinking outside of the box and be respectful of those all around them. I know that I will have students that learn visually, and I will adapt my teaching by providing different visual aids for those students to better understand. I will have students that are more auditory learners, and with them, I will make sure to have lectures that are comprehensive and include audio files for them to associate with. My reading learners will be provided different books and worksheets so that they can read on their own during quiet time. For my kinesthetic learners, I will have different workshops in place where they can actually feel and see the lesson being taught. Many schools are now becoming discovery schools. Students and participants in these kinds of programs learn something even more valuable than discovering a fact for themselves, a common goal of learning discovery programs. They learn the thrill of discovering the undiscovered. Success brings not just a good grade or the financial reward of a prize. It brings the satisfaction that one can realize dreams and thrive in a world framed by major dramatic questions. Brooklyn. One of my major focuses my curriculum is to teach respect. Students need to be respectful to one another, and to understand the differences is what makes them unique. But teaching respect is more difficult than it seems. The way I will be teaching is by leading by example. If I show my students and other students in the school the same amount of respect I expect them to have towards one another and faculty members, then they will understand what I mean by being respectful. I will allow my students to question my intent behind subject matters and why I teach the way I do, but I will in turn ask them to show me that they will be in class every day and follow directions to be respectful to me. The next slide is my vision of how students' learning environment will be impactful and as important as the content being taught. As an educator, I will ensure that my classroom and learning environment will steer clear of any sort of negativity and focuses solely on the personalized learning of each student, their ability to think critically, their creativity in and out of the classroom, and more importantly, positivity. Positive attitude reflects on the environment, making a world of difference. When a teacher is thinking about lesson plans and how to incorporate current events in the classroom, they also need to consider how they will have their learning environment, because this will affect the student's learning ability as well. Designing a classroom and understanding what materials work best is key. When a student first enters a classroom at the beginning of a school year, they are going to immediately judge how the year is going to be based on visuals. If they walk into a classroom that doesn't have any color or decor throughout, they can possibly feel intimidated by how the teacher is. This intimidation can be hard to break because they don't feel comfortable or relate to the studies that is being taught because they have no referencing material to look at. If educators have control over their classrooms, allowing students to be creative and showcase their talents can be beneficial. According to Susie Boss, there are ways of making a classroom be effective and educational. First, a community needs to be ready for disruption. Second, design thinking offers a process to engage educators and architects as co-creators and builds common ground for collaboration. Third, change management strategies ensure lasting results. Allowing the classroom to be a child-centered and progressive will allow students to engage in their studies and active in the classroom. In this day and age, making sure that everyone is being represented in a classroom is difficult but doable. The classroom needs to be evolving each and every day, and stereotypes need to be avoided. Consider the manner in which normative sex, age roles, property relationships, and most especially consumption and consumerism are visually suggested. We need to make sure we are incorporating not just the depictions of nuclear families, but families that are diverse, such as same-sex families, single-parent families, and families that are adopted. As an educator, I want to make all my students feel comfortable and represented. In any classroom, there is always concern for the achievement gap and cultural biases. As an educator, I will ensure that my classroom and learning environment will be open to all learners, no matter their race, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, or gender. I will have my classroom full of culture and different ways of learning to expand the students' learning capabilities and give them the confidence to overcome obstacles in their way. They will have the resources necessary and be held to a high expectations of themselves so that they are challenged each and every day. The achievement gap is affecting many of the students in high poverty areas where socioeconomic status is low. In my community, I definitely have seen it. There are schools in a neighborhood that teachers often are scared of going into because of the crime and poverty that is around the school. And many times those schools are struggling to keep teachers there because of those circumstances. Many new teachers start at these lower income schools for the experience before applying at other school districts. These lower income schools have many low income students, and those students have parents that are working multiple jobs just to get by. The schools don't have the same type of resources like the higher income schools, such as computers or newer textbooks. The higher income schools have computers in their classrooms, new desks, the playgrounds are kept up, and have newer equipment, and the morale among the teachers and staff is high because they are giving many resources for the classrooms. My proposed solution for my community is to first bring up the expectations for the students and hold them to it. Also, I would love to have my students' family involved as much as possible. J. Roddy Borg, Mary Borg, and Harriet Stranahan stated, the first avenue is to work to alleviate the poverty and low potential education levels that plague the average student in high poverty schools. Even if that meant a monthly phone call to go over the process and how they can help at home to give their child what they need to succeed is key. I want to be available for my parents, so emailing them will take place throughout the work week so that if homework is not getting completed or complications arise where both the student and the parent are struggling to understand what to do, then I can work with them to understand the material. Differences in the classroom are inevitable. We as human beings are unique, like snowflakes. Everyone has their own culture that they associate with, and those cultures need to be represented in the classroom without prejudice. When a student looks at someone and notices that they are different from themselves, they can often tease that person or ask a million questions why they are different. As an educator, I will ensure that my classroom and learning environment will be full of cultures around the world. I will provide interactive discussions with my students about different cultures and how each other sees the world and what makes us all unique. I will do my best to make sure that this is a positive outlook on culture and not a disability. And if there are any conflicts that arise with the students about culture, we can work together to understand and better appreciate it more. Living in the world today, we are ran by social media. 10 to 15 years ago, we would have never thought how much the world would be revolved around that aspect, but now we can't seem to get away from it. As an educator, I will ensure that my classroom and learning environment will include current and pop culture. I will teach my students the importance of reading about current events and how they can learn from it. I will also create rituals each and every day with the students so that they are comfortable to become independent learners in the future and create rituals themselves. Routines are key to a successful classroom. Students adapt to routines quickly and enjoy them over a period of time because they know what to expect, and it develops them to be independent learners. Children need a predictable structure and a routine that they can learn so they can become more independent learners. When a classroom has predictable structure and can do routines with confidence, it can have more flexibility to accommodate more spontaneous child-centered learning and can do more elaborate projects and ambitious work as students transfer familiar skills to novel situations. Last but certainly not least, as an educator, I will ensure my classroom and learning environment will be culturally diverse and be able to teach students through their strengths. I will focus on adjusting my lessons according to the cultures of my students and not ask my students to conform to other people's norms. My curriculum will include many different cultures and what makes them unique and how they have an effect on the world and our society. I will not dominate one culture over the other, but rather show how each culture has contributed to one another in one way or another.